Welcome, everybody, to our combined coach call. We are here from lots and lots of different teams coming together. Today is, July 13th, 2015. And our topic for tonight is building relationships and forming conversation. Normally, our call starts right at 8 p.m. Central, and right now I'm looking at my clock, and it's 8:20. So we actually spent 20 minutes getting to know each other. Whether everybody here knows it or not, I wasn't recording, but I was starting the training before we actually started recording. Because what we were just doing is what we do as coaches, right? Like, we're here to build relationships. We're here to find connection with other people, to share about our lives and find commonality with other people, to really be interested in others, asking questions to find that commonality. And then, if there's something that we can do to help another person, then we, expose that person to that opportunity. And it's just really as simple as that. So my intention for tonight is to kind of lay some groundwork about building relationships, both with kind of how we're approaching it emotionally and energetically, as well as giving some really specific tools that you can latch onto that will help you kind of guide yourself through having conversations. And then I'd also love to do some role play with messages. So, if you are naturally a very shy person, if you're an introvert like me, I don't know if I'm too shy, but I'm an introvert, then be thinking in the back of your mind, should I do this role play? And if the answer is, I'm not quite sure if I want to do it, then just flip that into a yes, I should. So be thinking about that right now. I'd like to do the role play actually through messaging, because I don't know about you, but most of the conversations and the relationships that I form are through social media. It's one thing to kind of have a speech conversation back and forth, which is great. But I think a lot of us are having these conversations over messages. Does that kind of match with your experience? Thumbs up if that's a yes. Yeah. Is there anybody who's doing a lot of conversation offline? Yeah. Okay. So Wangel's doing some phone. Susie, you have a lot of offline. Yeah. What's the context for that for you?
Yeah, I guess some of my coworkers have expressed a little bit of an interest here. I'm kind of slowly planting the seed with them because they're in that sort of health and fitness world already. And just as I'm meeting people throughout my day, I work, I work in a hospital and private practice. So I just meet clients and things. So right now it's been more in person, but I think in order to really grow the business and have it be just beyond those few people, it'll have to be more online.
Yeah. But I think it's really smart of you to really focus on the immediate and the here and now, especially since you're, a couple weeks in. We always want to go for that low hanging fruit first, so we can get experience and we can, get that momentum under our belt. The cool thing about having conversations in person is, in addition to words, we also have the other 93% of what communication is all about. Body language, face, intonation, rate of speech, breathing patterns, all of that is the other 93% of the message that we communicate. And for those of us who are having conversations over the phone, at least you also get to hear people's voices. Even if you can't see their bodies, you can really hear a lot in how people are having conversations. And so, it kind of amazes me actually how successful we've been having so many conversations just over messaging, when you literally only have the words that you're saying. Now, there's of course all sorts of different parts of that can be that can be part of the conversation. If you're using specific kinds of jargon that are connecting with another person, if you use emojis, if there's slang, if you say like you instead of you, there are ways that you can kind of tweak what you're writing to really connect with the person. So I wanted to just kind of share some things that I got from a really amazing Tony Robbins video that I watched. I know I posted that in our coach invitation. Did anybody else get to take a look at that today? Yeah, Adam, really good stuff, right? So he talks about this whole process is really about building rapport, building connection with other people. And he really works from this premise that people like who they feel like they are similar to or who they feel like they want to be. So whenever we see ourselves in another person, we instantly feel that magnetism toward each other. And so, or if there's somebody who we find is really inspirational, and if that inspirational person that you kind of admire, like turns around and starts to talk to you and ask questions of you, I mean, that is just such an intense connection that happens. And then conversely, people that we feel like we don't have a lot in common with, we frankly, I mean, I'm sure we're all nice people, but we frankly just kind of not like them or we skip over those relationships. And I mean, it's just kind of the way that most people are wired. So with that idea, what we are here to do is, of course, project who we are as strongly as possible so that we can attract others who are similar to us. And then when we're having those conversations, to really listen and watch what the other person is doing and how they're saying things, so that we can demonstrate this technique called mirroring and matching. So mirroring and matching is, essentially just being aware of the cues of how the other person is presenting themselves and trying to pick up on those and trying to weave them into conversation. For example, if somebody says, I'm buying this house, and I want this house to just be fabulous, like just a fabulous house. And if the real estate agent comes to them and says, I've got the house for you. This house is wonderful. It is just superb. You're going to love it. Even though fabulous and wonderful might basically mean the same thing, it doesn't mean the same thing to the person who just has this emotional connection to the words that they use. So the first point is listen to the words that the other person is saying. And, especially as coaches, when we are, asking about, how are you feeling? What are your goals? What's your motivation? What's your reason for wanting to get in shape? Really listen very carefully to those words, and as much of those words that you can weave into your own vocabulary and mirror back to them, the better. So, mirroring the words, if you're in person, listening to rate of conversation, listening to intonation. Are they really excited? Are they really strong? Are they just kind of easygoing? Like, really pick up on those things, and the more that you can reflect that back to them, they're going to really connect with you and think, this person actually understands me. Like, I don't know what it is about them, but they just connect with me, and I like that person. If they like you, then of course the relationship is going to grow. So I know Jeff is here, and Jeff is an awesome coach.
Thank you.
We have talked a lot about this idea of dating your prospects or your friends. Sorry, Jeff and I are not dating. We're both taken by separate people. But it's this, when you're talking to somebody, do you remember, if anybody here is, Tim and Susie, you're married. Adam, you're married. If Colleen's married, if anybody here is married or had that really intense relationship, positive relationship, just take a second and think back to in the beginning of that relationship when you were so curious about the other person, like you were inspired by them and you just wanted to ask every little question about what they were doing, what they like, what school do they go to, just every little thing. Do you remember that? Yeah. Now, as couples mature, that natural curiosity, tends to change into something different. Got to keep the spark alive. But that kind of interaction is that same kind of intense connection that we want as we're building relationship with other people. Of course, we're not talking about like cheating on your spouse. No, no adultery. But it's that same kind of feeling of connection, of interest, of curiosity. Jeff, I'm curious just to know, because you've been really like working from that perspective. How's that been going for you?
It's actually going really, really well in that perspective of dating people. And I mean, just like you're saying, I agree with 100%. If you think about your conversations, you do have a certain kind of confidence when you're pursuing somebody, but you don't just come out and like say like the end result, like, hey, let's get married tomorrow, or hey, I want to do X, Y, or Z with you. It's like you need to slow down and you need to like build that relationship before asking that big question. And the same thing with coaching is like, hey, I want you to do a challenge group. Come on, just go on, be a coach. You get the free $40. Everything's great. I mean, you can't. That's basically the question you have to wait for, and you need to work on your relationship and find out all those little details, like Michael was saying about them, and then usually when people have that relationship, when it's like you have to ask what is this, or are you ready, to take this to the next level? That's sort of the same conversation you're gonna have. So right on with exactly what Michael's saying.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody else have kind of a similar experience as you're talking to people?
I can relate to when I first started talking to you, though, Michael, and I think that's kind of when you were changing your perspective on how to approach people.
Yep.
So I caught the new Michael. I don't know how else to say that, but well, we connected because we had things in common with music, and then we, as a speech therapist, I know how important it is to listen also, and you were such a good listener. And that one night when I had the text and I had like hit the bottom, and you probably remember that, I was like, I'm crying right now, because you were the first person who understood where I was coming from with my weight issues. And that changed everything.
Yeah.
And I love you, but not in that way.
We're both.
As a really good friend. It's a really good friend because we're both smitten with our spouses.
Absolutely.
But no, it definitely, whatever it was, that,
Yeah.
changed the relationship. I don't know. From just somebody who I was talking to about this to somebody who was really listening.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I can remember back to the old Michael. Like I'm combing through some of my previous messages, and for those who've been coaches for a long time, you're gonna know that you're gonna like evolve and change and grow and learn. Like every couple months, you're gonna look back at what you did 3 months and be like, ugh, why did I do that? But in the beginning, I really like approached it like I was this high and mighty know-it-all guru, that I was like blessing the world, that I was gonna help you out, and if you would only just read through this 9-paragraph email that I'm gonna send to you, then good luck, you're gonna be awesome. And it's just like a graveyard of messages that have 0 responses to. I don't know if anybody else has ever experienced that, like where you like feel like you've just like poured your heart out and then there's crickets. Anybody else? Yeah. And the reason that that happened is because I didn't build a connection. We didn't have rapport. They didn't trust me. They didn't really believe that I cared for them. You know, there's that great saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's what this is all about. And it's kind of interesting because I think there are some people who are naturally, you know, interested in people, and you know, they just love hearing stories. And then for some, it's a stretch to go in that direction. And you know, at the very core of it, we have to be interested in people. Like, there's no other way around it. And if you are not in a place where you're interested in people, you need to find a way to get curious about other people. And I think a lot of that just comes from listening and, you know, just being really, really open, asking questions. Because that is the thing that is at the very core. Everything else is like bells and whistles and technique. But the very core of what's going to make you successful is caring about other people and really showing that by listening. So let's get to some technique then, now that we've established that base. So the question is, how do you start conversations? And I have a way that I like to do it, and I'm curious, is there anybody here who has a way that you like to start conversations? And it can be through messages or face-to-face. Like, what have you done?
I'll go. A lot. We've talked about that last week, but a lot of my conversations recently have been through the Facebook groups that I'm in. I'm in a ton of groups in my niche market, and I just friend request people. And as soon as they accept my friend request, within an hour or two from that, I send them a really personal message saying, "Hey, thanks. I see that we're both in the same group, in case you were wondering where that friend request came from." And immediately when I do that, they connect. Okay, we're in the same group together. So obviously we've got something in common. And then, like, if it's a muscle car group or something like that, I'll say, "Hey, so what kind of cars do you have?" Or are you really into muscle cars? Or are you just a fan? Or do you have cars? I'll just break the ice with whatever niche group that I've gotten them from, basically. And it works wonders because you're not searching for something to talk about. You immediately have that connection already. You're in the same group. So bam, you can have a 5-minute conversation about just the group you're in, whether it's sports or basketball or cars or flowers or whatever it is. I mean, you can just go on and on for days about just that niche group. So I found that is a very easy way to just get in there and break the ice.
Yeah. Yeah. Right on. Right on. Anyone else?
Yeah, I pretty much do exactly what Adam's been doing. Just searching Facebook for your niche groups and joining them and talking to them and having that leg up on breaking ice with people. And honestly, I think cars might be a number 2 to this because people love their cars. But if you have people, if you're like me, if you're like a dad and you have kids, one of the best things that you could say to people with kids is compliment their kids and compliment their parenting. You feel so good when you oh my God, is that a good? You're like, wow, I feel great. And one of the things I have, one of the guys I'm talking to in a stay-at-home dads group is he just had a second kid, and we would talk back and forth for a while. And I'm not saying everyone needs to go out and spend money on people, but I just sent a really small $4 gift to him, like a book, a kid's book, and he got that in the mail. And it was sort of like, we hadn't really talked about anything that I do with Beachbody. I never brought it up once. And then after he got today, he thanked me for it and then asked me, "So I need to start losing some weight. What would you recommend?" I I mean, yeah, I spent $4, but the point is, like, I had that conversation, I had that thing kind of going in those niche groups. So I know it wasn't really about starting the conversation, I guess, but finding those groups were really good and getting that to happen. So that was fantastic.
Yeah. And if you compliment me and my dogs, I will do the same thing.
Mhm.
Pet parents also. I'm curious, Jeff, to know how did he know to ask you about fitness?
I think he snooped my profile.
Right.
Yeah. I love Facebook stalkers to a point. Yeah. So I mean, I think
No.
he most likely knew, from just kind of checking out my profile, seeing what I was about. Because honestly, if you get a gift from someone, you're like, wow, I didn't think we were on that level. And yeah, it was really small. I honestly was going to do a thank you card, but I'm in love with this one kid's book. So, or like a congratulations card, basically. But I love this one kid's book called Pout Pout Fish. It's fantastic for personal development. I'm serious. And so I sent him that book, and so I think that's kind of how that happened.
Love it. I love it. And that's just such a great example of how important it is to be sharing your life and what you're doing on your Facebook page. And if the little angles of not just I did my workout, but what's your personal experience, and are you living out loud? Are you sharing those little details, those little tips that are helping you, the things you're considering, your struggles, just really sharing in that and putting that all out there. Because if Jeff hadn't done that, this guy would be like, all right, this guy sent me a book. That's great. So.
Yeah, I got something to talk about that. That just happened to me about 2 days ago. The fact that you're talking about living out loud. I had a customer from a year ago, probably, that when she signed up, she marked on her email "Do not contact," which you have that option when you sign up for a Beachbody account. So I was never able to contact this person ever. I mean, she didn't have her email. I don't have a phone number or an address or nothing. So fast forward to about 2 days ago, I look in my back office. I've got a Success Club point for Shakeology, and it was her. And she messages me and says, "I've been watching your profile for the last year. I think it's awesome the last couple of months what you've been talking about on your social media." There you go, living out loud. Somebody saw it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Hey, I got something to share, Michael.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got to jump off in 3 minutes or 2 minutes. I have another call and got to eat my healthy food over there. But I really dig what you're saying about, really caring for people, and just the technique is secondary. I was just reading the Seven Habits by Stephen Covey, and he mentions that the primary thing is about character. It's about having good character. And then secondary is all the technique. And so you can't fake good character. You can't fake caring about people. You either do or you don't. You either care about yourself and, how much money I'm going to make, or you care about the well-being of other people and you kind of let that, your own self go. I don't care if I get it or not, as long as I see that you're doing well. And so I think coming from that place has really worked, letting go of the result, whether they sign up with me or not. I still want you to be healthy, go to the gym, get a personal trainer. I'm here to support you. So, I think basically that's my approach when I go, on the phone calling people, and all this stuff is like a good entryway, like the common interest and like gifts, and like that's all like preparation to show that, hey, I actually do care. And, sure, I'm going to get something out of it, but that's way less than you.
Yeah.
So, thank you all.
Right on. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And thanks for making it to your first call. I'll let you continue on with your night.
Good job, Wangle.
Bye. Love you
buddy.
all.
You shall be diamond next month. I see it.
Give me a week.
Go for it. Go for it.
Bye. Love you.
All right. Love you. Bye. Man. Yeah. I mean, already that's it. I do have like whenever I accept a friend request on Facebook, then I'll send them a message and I'll literally say, hey, I just saw your friend request. I thought I'd say hi. Hope you've had a great week. What you up to today? Question mark. And I've kind of opted for like a really loose colloquial slang, saying what ya up to today instead of being like very robotic and saying like, what are you up to today? Or, what did you have for lunch? How did you enjoy yourself on Friday night? Like, I just really try to like think about how the people around me are going to talk and going to respond. And, right after that question, they usually feel pretty good, and they say like what they're up to, and then the conversation just flows from there. For people that you are interacting with in groups, definitely like liking their pictures and their posts and interacting publicly on their Facebook. It feels good because you're giving them attention. I know when people comment on my stuff, I feel great. So that's just a really great intro, and then that can lead into a private message as well. And then just kind of like a basic understanding is, like Jeff was saying, lead with a compliment and end with a question. Everybody loves compliments. Everybody's favorite topic is themselves. And the crazy twist of this whole thing is, if you are interested in another person, then they'll come away from the conversation thinking you were the most interesting person. It's weird, it's bizarre, but that's just kind of how that all works. So
hey, Michael, can I add one little small thing to what you said?
Yeah.
Basically, when Michael said like you start with a compliment, that works obviously a lot of the times. But what I've been doing, and you guys can check out this book for yourself, for your relationships, or just for coaching. Check out the 5 Love Languages book, okay? And you figure out basically he kind of breaks down like these 5 different languages people have, or different ways they like to receive love, whether it's gifts or compliments, or like words of encouragement, things like that, services. And if you can do your best to figure out what that person is that you're talking with, that's why I sent that book, because that person is in a relationship, and I get them to talk about their relationships, and I kind of ask little questions to poke and figure out what their language is. And if I can figure out that, then you just fill it in. So check out that book.
That's a good recommendation. Yeah, speaking their language.
It is a really good book. I've read that one, and I would never have thought to apply it that way. So that is like so cool, Jeff. Thank you.
Yeah.
I've been going to therapy, and I love it. I'm like the only person that's like really jazzed in the waiting room. Like, I'm small on my face. Like, I can't wait to go in and see what I'm gonna discover, and like make those aha moments all the time. And when the therapist hand me this paper, I'm reading this, and I'm like, this is amazing. I can use this for coaching and for my relationship. Anyways, sorry to interrupt. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, that's right on. That's right on. And that just comes from like just being open and just looking to see how the connections. We probably most of us probably have already come into contact with the acronym FORM, right? FORM. Is there anybody for whom this is brand new? Okay. Yeah. So FORM is an acronym that stands for F is for family, O is for occupation, R is for recreation, and then M stands for message. It's basically like a blueprint about how to have a good human conversation, like how to be cool. Things to talk about that most people have some sort of a connection with, that you can find commonalities with. So, like we were talking about earlier, family. Like if you compliment somebody on their kid or their dog, they're going to instantly like be in love with you. Occupation, just asking like, hey, what do you do for work? Or what are you passionate about? Or even like, what is, do you volunteer? Things like that, and finding that connection and having a conversation coming from there. Recreation, I think, is a really good one, at least for me in my circle. Especially asking like, hey, what are you doing on Friday night? Or how was your weekend? What were you up to? Were you on the lake? Or just asking those kinds of questions. It usually leads to a really fun, light conversation, as opposed to asking about occupation, which, I mean, let's face it, most people hate their jobs. If you ask them about occupation, they're going to be like, ugh, I hate it. So, I don't always lead with occupation. But if somebody like comes back with a negative response, like, oh, I hate my job, or, I just did a triple shift, definitely like mirroring there helps to really connect with it and commiserating and really connecting over that. So that's just kind of as a tip. So that's FOR, and then M stands for message, and that's basically the thing that you want to communicate to them. Now, when I first learned about forming, I thought the M meant that at the end of each conversation, I needed to invite that person into a challenge group. And it was a huge mistake because we hadn't always formed that kind of relationship and that rapport. So sometimes the M is just, hey, I got to get going, but it's been great talking to you. Just as simple as that. Or just having some sort of like a little wrap up. And then you continue the conversation, you form again, in a couple days. But that's just like a basic blueprint. Now, one thing that I decided to tweak about forming was I feel like I've done a lot of robot impressions tonight. But what I was doing is that I was like interrogating the person, that I was rapid fire asking them questions, and then they'd come up back with their answer, and then I'd ask them another question. I'd ask like, what'd you do on Friday night? Oh, I went to the movies. Then I'd be like, well, what are you doing today? And I would just ask these questions, and because I thought that's like what I was supposed to do. So instead, acting like a normal person, I decided to come up with this little acronym to help me with that, and I call it ARQ. ARQ. So that stands for affirm, relate, question. ARQ, affirm, relate, question. And it's just a great way of like not being an interrogator. So if you ask like, hey, what'd you do over the weekend? And they say, oh, we went to I took a walk. Affirm, relate, question. Wow, that's awesome. It must have been a great day. I was able to, go to the park today, and it was so nice to enjoy the sun. Then you ask the next question, whatever it is. So you're generous, like you're offering information about yourself, and maybe they'll ask you questions back. So that's kind of creating that rapport. So form an arc with people to kind of put it all together.
I love your arc way more than form, honestly. Form, when I first started, I literally would say to people, how's your family doing? Or how, you have any kids? What do you do for work? What do you do for fun? And I would leave the M off, and people are like, why are you asking me these like ridiculously random questions?
Who are you?
Like, block. I don't want to answer. Yeah, you just found me on a hashtag? I don't know you. So yeah, I love your arc.
Yes.
I mean,
the conversation,
I love your arc.
Thank you. I do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe each conversation can be about one of those things. Like you can just talk about family in one conversation. Maybe another time you're relating about work, or another time you're relating about some movie that you saw. You don't have to like cram everything into the same conversation. So, and you can usually read that. Like if there's a lot of flow, it's going well, then that's, you can kind of do whatever you want. So I do want to get to do some role play, but before we get to that, is there anybody who has any other comments or questions so far? Is this making sense?
Yeah, I have one question. I think sometimes I find it hard to know when I should be transitioning to asking a message, about joining me. And so I don't know. I guess sometimes I get lost in what I should be, at what point in the conversation should I get to that point? So I think that's just something I struggle with myself.
Yeah. Anybody else have that? Yeah. Like, how do you make
all the time
that jump? Yeah.
in the back of my mind? I'm like, challenge pack.
Especially in the last day of the month.
Can't talk to anyone the last day of the month. I'll just like spit out challenge pack on them. A link will come out of my mouth.
You're like, oh, that's interesting. You should be in my challenge group.
I'm just scanning your groceries, sir.
Yeah. I think reading people and just getting better at reading people really helps to know, like, when is that natural point to offer an invitation. And that only comes from like going for no and practicing and really screwing it up royally a lot. Like I said, I've got like a graveyard of people that I've messed up with. But you have to do that, and like you have to get the experience and the practice, especially for people who it didn't come for naturally, like in my experience. But you're gonna get better at it, and you can't be afraid to make a mistake and not do it. So
there's a really cool quote. I was just talking about this in my team call. This is everything, the cornerstone to everything. And John Maxwell, obviously. If you won't be better tomorrow than you were today, then what do you need tomorrow for?
Ugh.
And so it's painful. I read it and I was like, ouch, God, and what Michael said, you just got to start doing it. And even if even if you don't really expect much to come of it, you're going for no, like he said, once you start doing it, you'll feel better about that.
Dude, going for no is fun.
Yeah.
It really is fun. I'm telling you, once you let go and just say screw it and just screw it up royally, like you said, that's the only way you learn what works for you, because what works for Michael doesn't work for me, and what works for Jeff doesn't work for me. What works for me is what works for me. And I don't know that yet until I screw up so many times that I say, that wasn't it, that wasn't it, that wasn't it. There it is, right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way.
Yeah. Right on. Okay, let's see how to do this role play. I think, so what I want to do is actually do a screen share, and I'm fine being one of the people, just because I have to be like friends with a person on Facebook to have a conversation. Is there anybody who wants to try?
Me.
Yeah?
Please pick me.
Okay. I'm going to bring up your message.
Let's do it.
And
See how royally I can screw this up. Let's see, let me put myself in.
okay, fingers crossed. Can you guys all see my screen now? Yeah, thumbs up. Cool. Okay, so you should see my chat with Adam there in the bottom there. Did you know you can send money through?
Yeah, I can see our chat, but I can't physically. I see it on your screen, but I can't see it on mine to conversate with you. Because it goes full screen.
Are you on full screen with Zoom?
I'm not. Let me see. Hold on. Yeah, because your screen share just completely took over my computer. Like I can't even. Hold on. Let's see if this works. Hold on. Yeah. Face
Double click the screen.
I'll just double click it. Get out of here real quick. You're so genius, Jeff. My God, I'm so glad I'm hanging out with you in Nashville.
I just took a chance and double clicked on my screen. I was gonna make a total mistake. I don't know.
That was a beautiful save.
Crashed and burned.
Okay, so let me pull up the conversation and let's get to the screwing up.
Okay.
Michael. There we go. Okay.
Let's do this. How about be the random person and be the coach?
There we go. Okay. Okay, so you want me to start or do you want to start?
Yep. How about this? You be the coach.
Okay.
And I'll be, how about, well, let's say, how do we know each other?
We know each other from from a group, just a group, a random group about dogs.
Perfect. I can do that.
Okay. By the way, this is very awkward.
And I'm going to be like one of the typical kind of people that doesn't just immediately ask you a bunch of questions.
Okay.
So you got to like draw me out.
Okay.
Sounds are riveting.
Did I mention this was awkward?
Everybody, you like this?
I bet people are snoring right now.
I feel like this is You've Got Mail.
That's funny.
And just to kind of narrate, Adam didn't and
I
then
can barely hear you.
just to kind of go into that area. So,
I didn't hear you. Somebody's dog's in the background barking.
oh,
Is that you?
Adam, I like what you did about transitioning into occupation by offering what you do,
Yeah.
like giving me a chance to ask about it.
Yeah, that's one thing I always do. I always offer it first. Okay, so you want to keep going with this?
I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's.
Pretty good.
What do you guys think of this?
Somebody's dog is going bananas. Just mute everybody.
Okay. How's that?
I think somebody doesn't realize that they're not muted because I'm getting a ton of feedback.
Looking through. Okay, it sounds better on my end. Okay, cool. Yeah, cool. So I mean, that's just an example of forming, and that's the kind of conversation that you can have. It's gonna really create rapport with another person. Probably in this conversation, who knows where it goes and how long it goes on. One of the cool things about social media is that we're really outside of time, and it's not like a face-to-face conversation where it's weird if somebody doesn't respond to you immediately.
Michael, we're getting a lot of feedback from whoever the iPhone is.
Let's see. Is everybody on mute?
I can't even hear you, basically. That is very, very loud.
Yeah, I'm hearing that too. Oh, iPhone.
You keep muting them, but they keep unmuting themselves.
Mute yourself.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so having that conversation, creating the rapport, a lot of times over messaging, you know, we all kind of understand that we'll be in the middle of a conversation and something comes up where we get distracted and we come back to the conversation, you know, that might be 2 hours later or the next day, and we can kind of like pick up where we left off. I know I have a lot of conversations that go that way. So, but yeah, thanks. It's just a great example. And I think we can kind of start to wrap things up here. Is there anybody who has questions or comments, things that you wanted to add or things that weren't clear?
No, do you want to take us off of screen share?
Yeah, I'm looking at that, and I think they're having the same problem that we had that last time.
Here we go again.
Yeah. Which we figured. Oh. There we go. There we go. Good. Thanks.
Well, I thought that went pretty smoothly. I didn't choke too bad.
No, you did great. I mean, it felt super natural. Super natural.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot better at that. I mean, I really struggled with that in the beginning. Because I'm a real private person, so it's like, so all of a sudden, when I became a Beachbody coach, it's like, yeah, talk to everybody all the time about anything. It's like, yeah, that's not really who I am. But, I mean, I've gotten a lot better. I know that.
Yeah, good practice. Yeah. So, question for everybody here.
Private people, Facebook groups.
Sorry, say it again?
Any private people, Facebook groups.
Oh, yeah. They're not very active. Everybody's just like a lurker. So I want to hear, from everybody here, do you feel like from what we've talked about, what are your main takeaways? Do you feel like you are more equipped to have conversations, maybe a little less scared?
Can I go?
Yeah, Tim.
Yeah, my takeaway from this is the conversation should just thread, like you said, naturally. And really, it sounds like there needs to be a level of patience here to either continue that in the moment or be willing to pick up the next day and still be patient at that time, right up until you're ready to invite them to a challenge group.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a really good takeaway.
Yeah.
Peter, you know I'm calling you out, buddy.
I'm multitasking. Sorry, I was having conversations.
Practicing.
Yeah.
Really.
Who's going to Summit, by the way? Yeah. One of the. Oh, that's awesome. That's a lot of people on the call going. Even if you're flying on an airplane, like most of us might be, when you're talking to people next to you, they don't have to be a niche market person. I mean, just talk, And what I found really effective, just like dating them, is to, hey, and typically you figure out if they're going to Nashville or if they're vacationing or they're going home, right? It's a big one. And if they're going home, you say, hey, can I Facebook you if you have any questions about stuff in the area? Can I get your input on it? Because I know you're going off to do whatever after the plane. No one wants to stick around after the plane, right? So can I just Facebook you and get some info? That has worked most of the time for me recently, most of the time. And I just hand them my phone and I said, find yourself, because I don't know, I'll probably type it wrong. And then they find themselves and they send themselves a request.
Yep. That's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Yeah, the airplane. Such a good place.
And then wipe your phone down afterwards.
In their presence. Get your laptop.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, cool. I'm so excited to see you all who are coming to Summit. This is going to be an amazing experience, and I hope we'll be able to find each other in the 25,000 people that are going.
Marco.
It's unbelievable.
Hello.
Unbelievable. Thanks for joining our call, and I'll send the link out and put this in the invitation so you can pass this along to your teams as well, or you can look at it back. And I will see you in Summit. And for next week's call, I'm probably thinking like we should probably do some sort of a summit wrap up. Like, what are your takeaways, and what are your action steps so that we can really like hit the ground running? I know that week after summit is like a huge spike in coaching, like money and people. And I mean, it's just an awesome time because people are watching you. If you're going to summit, like, you're going to be posting all the time. And this is like the one time that you can post a lot about Beachbody and people are watching you. So, keep sharing your personal angles. Don't just post like pictures of Shakeology and products. Like really make it personal, kind of like a behind the scenes, your own reality show.
I highly recommend bringing some sort of, if you have like an external battery to charge your phone, and not plugging. The plug is great, but plugs are going to be in high demand. And so if you have like another battery or external, whatever you can do to charge your phone, turn on airplane mode to take pictures. I don't know what you're going to do.
I've seen fist fights break out over plugs. They mean business. Yeah, I think I'm going to get 2 of them. So anyway, all right, guys, I will see you, most of you in Nashville, and maybe next week on the call. Have a great night.
See ya.
Bye-bye.